The People's Temple of the Disciples of Christ, commonly shortened to People's Temple, was an American new religious movement which existed between 1955 and 1978. It had over 20,000 members. Originally founded in Indianapolis, Indiana by Reverend Jim Jones, the People's Temple spread a message that combined elements of Christianity with communist and socialist ideology, with an emphasis on racial equality. The cult is mostly known for the mass murder event that happened on November 18, 1978 in Guyana. The mass murder killed 909 people as well as murders of U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan. The incident in Guyana resulted in the greatest single loss of American civilian life in a deliberate act prior to 9/11 attacks. Because of the killings in Guyana, the cult is widely known as a destructive cult. James Warren Jones, aka Jim Jones, was an American cult leader, preacher, and civil rights activist who conspired with his inner circle to direct the mass murder-suicide of himself and his followers in Guyana on November 18, 1978. Jones was born on May 13, 1931 in a rural area of Crete, Indiana. He was of Irish and Welsh descent. Jones was a voracious reader who studied Stalin, Marx, Mao, Gandhi, and Hitler. He also developed an intense interest in religion. His childhood friends recalled him as a very weird kid who was obsessed with religion and death. Jones and a childhood friend both claimed his father was associated with the Ku Klux Klan. Jones' parents separated and Jones relocated with his mother to Richmond, Indiana. In December 1948, Jones graduated from Richmond High School early with honors. Jones married nurse Marceline Baldwin in 1949, and the two relocated to Bloomington, Indiana. His wife died with him in Jonestown. Jones began the People's Temple informally in the 1950s as an independent congregation in Indianapolis. He was inspired by the ideal of a just society that could overcome the evils of racism and poverty. Although Jones was white, he attracted mostly African Americans to the group with his vision of an interrogated congregation. In 1960, the People's Temple affiliated with the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, and 4 years later Jones was ordained. Jones' apostolic socialism was influenced by the Marxist liberation theology, popular among Latin American clergy at the time. He mixed social concerns with the faith healing and an enthusiastic worship style drawn from the Black church. Branch congregations opened in San Francisco and Los Angeles, and the agriculture settlement Jonestown was founded in 1974. Meanwhile, the church was accused in the press of financial fraud, physical mistreatment of members, and abuse of children in its care. In 1977, Jones led hundreds of groups members to Guyana. A year later, concerned relatives and a group of former members persuaded Leo J. Ryan, a U.S. congressman from California, to visit Jonestown. The visit apparently went well, but during his visit, a number of temple members expressed a desire to leave with him, and on November 18, they accompanied Ryan to the local airstrip at Port Kaituma. However, for reasons still not completely understood, Ryan and those with him, which included 3 journalists and one of the defectors, were murdered by self-styled temple security guards who opened fire on the group when they reached the airport to return to the United States. Shortly after, Jones ordered his congregation to drink a concoction of cyanide-laced grape-flavored Kool-Aid, which was very poisonous. This resulted in the death of 918 people, including 276 children and the leader Jim Jones. Some people tried to run away from this, but they got shot by the temple security guards. The members of the group who had remained in California later formally disbanded. Following the tragedy at Jonestown, the People's Temple was identified as a destructive cult, and Jones was depicted by the media as an evil cult leader. Although numerous popular studies of Jonestown have been written, the effort to understand the group and why the tragedy occurred continues. Temple insider Michael Prokes, who had been ordered to deliver a suitcase containing temple funds to be transferred to the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, committed suicide in March 1979, 4 months after the Jonestown incident. In addition, according to various press reports, after the Jonestown suicide, surviving temple members in the U.S. announced their fears of being targeted by a hit squad of Jonestown survivors. At the end of 1978, the temple declared bankruptcy and its assets went into receivership. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this type of content, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.